And here we go. So hello, everyone. Welcome to Women in Weed. This is episode number 3. And this whole series is brought to you live by Get Me Some Green and U Life University. And we are really trying to promote the idea of women in the weed industry. Most of you know, who've listened to a couple of our podcasts before, that more and more women are really coming to the forefront of this industry and making huge, massive strides as we go forward. So today, I'm really excited to bring one of my favorite women in the industry and someone who I've been working with the longest, Miss Shannon Thomas. Shannon,
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about you and your journey and where you're at right now in the weed industry.
Okay, so I am one of the pioneer women, I guess, of hemp. I've been doing this for 6 years with my company that I'm with right now. Prior to that, I was doing sales and I had no idea what cannabidiol was. I didn't know what hemp, like besides like funky hemp t-shirts and all these different things that I would see. Like I didn't know how amazing this plant was. I didn't know anything. So I was working at kind of like a sales job, grinding. One of my managers who I looked up to at the sales job, she's like, I'm leaving. I'm leaving this place. And I was like, okay, where are you going? Tell me. Like, I want to go with you because I was miserable. And she was like, I'm going to this company called Cannabis, and that's what it was called before. CV Science is where I work now. So I said, tell me more. You know, I had dabbled in weed. Like I'm a graphic design degree with San Diego State, and I smoked, you know, a little bit of pot in college. That was like I didn't really party much or do any of that. I was more like just antisocial and kind of into my art. So I knew what weed was, but she's like, no, this doesn't get you high. Like it's CBD. Like I was like, what is CBD? You know? So it was very intriguing to me. And I decided to interview. I got the job. We had to cold call health food stores around the country and try to sell them on this. They're like, cannabis? And I'm like, no, I'm not. It's cannabis, but it's like decaf, you know, like it was a very, yeah, like we were trying to sell something no one had heard of to health food stores.
Wow.
And
How hard was that? Like when you call these places, what were they saying? Like, are you out of your mind?
yeah, some people would hang up on me, and some people were really nervous. Some people were like, tell me more. Like, I want to be on a cutting edge of something. I want to learn,
Right.
Especially these independent health food stores. That's their thing. You know, they find some special mushroom or some special herb, and then it blows up. And it usually starts with the independents. They're a little bit more edgy. So we were starting with that. And I'll never forget, like, sales just started booming. I'm talking like people were selling out and yelling at me that it wasn't shipping fast enough. We were writing our orders down on a sheet of paper. We had no system. It was just a crazy startup situation. And
I actually remember some of that because it was 3 years since we started working with you. And even 3 years into it, there were times I'm like, Shannon, where's my order? Like, what's going to happen here? So you were feeling that for a couple of years, that growth.
Yeah, it was disorganized in a good way, but it was growing. We were doing trade shows and we were getting in front of people. And the coolest part about my job, I felt like that's where I belonged, is when I would just get these stories, because I was like I would wear many hats in the beginning. So I was like the retail girl. I was I'd have new accounts, but I would answer the phone, customer service. I did it all, like for like any of the sales channels. And so I would talk to people, and it was like changing lives. And that's what that's what really got me, is that I was able to do something that was so interesting and learned so much. I'm telling you, I feel like there's still so much to learn, but I had some good teachers along the way. And I think that's the best part, is just hearing that it's really changing. Like, people would call me crying, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is just the coolest feeling, to be able to sell something, because I love sales and love talking to people, but that actually I could get behind and really worked, you know? So it was a wild ride. And I remember the first month we did $1 million as a company. And it just grew and grew and grew. And then I took more of a manager role. I had people underneath me. It was all just kind of shifting. And now it's kind of like at a point where it's a little saturated. There's a lot of brands. I mean, I wanted to say that there's like, last time I checked, there was 3,700 brands that were like in different stores and things like that. I'm sure it's grown. That was like a year ago that I got those numbers.
Painful. It's a little painful right now, being a store owner myself and not having a brand that we specifically align with. It's been really interesting to watch the market change and the market grow and all of these small brands. But another thing I've been seeing is smaller brands being swallowed up by large conglomerates. And there's a difference between big companies. And I would love your opinion on this as well, because you work for one of the largest CBD companies in the industry and one of the founding members. We'll say the founding fathers of the industry, which is really an honor for you and really cool that I get to work with you. But some of these other companies have become monstrous because they bought up all these small companies, and they're doing them, in my opinion, a great disservice. There's been 2 companies that I've recently partnered with or have been partnered with for a couple of years that have been recently bought out by Canadian firms.
Wow.
Which I thought was really interesting, that Canadian firms are buying US-based CBD companies, but then they change the formula and then they change the entire sales model, and that entire company ends up folding. And this is twice now. So what is your opinion on the growth spurt that we've seen with all these other brands? And how do you feel like that's affected the brand that you work with? And how do you feel like that's affected the industry as a whole?
Well, there's a couple of things about specifically about my company that were just rooted in science, right? We've done the research, we have the papers, we're very, buttoned up as far as our GMP facility. We've always been that way. We were always thinking ahead. We weren't trying to make as much money as we could until the lights shut off. So being with a company like that, we sourced our hemp in the EU at first because there was no hybridized hemp growing across the US. And so we went to Holland and we found this like 3,000 acres in Holland, and they used for agricultural purposes. And so we still source from the EU. And there's something really special about our oil. We've never compromised that. We are now sourcing, in the US a little bit, just because people like higher milligrams. We were finding that a lot of our products are low milligrams, but there's so many other cofactors that make it this magical product, in my opinion.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think people truly understand. And it's nice to hear when we try to explain to people, the education out there is really limited. So the consumer they know THC and they know CBD, and that's it. So, but your product does carry so much more. So can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So what makes it so unique is we're called Plus CBD oil is our brand. So it's not just CBD, right? So there's fatty acids in the plant, there's terpenes, there's other minor cannabinoids, and they all work together in what we like to call the like entourage effect or the hemptourage effect. It's kind of a play on the word, but something about them working synergistically together is what is working, right? So people in America tend to be like more. I want to see, I want the strongest thing you got, right? So they're looking for CBD in the thousands of milligrams, when our products, they're not there yet because there's just so much else. Like if you saw a pie chart, CBD would make up such a small sliver of what's really in the plant. And we've only touched the surface. There's over 100 cannabinoids in the hemp plant. And it's no one's researching all the other things. They're finally getting caught up with CBD a little bit. Like it's so behind, right? So I don't expect that to change overnight, but I do know that's what makes our products very unique and very special, is that we don't just grow a hemp plant. Actually, we don't take a marijuana plant and a hemp plant and combine it, and then it tests below 0.3% THC, so at dry weight, so that we can sell it. We actually just use the whole plant, the stalks, the stem, the leaves, everything in it. And so some people might say, well, that's a waste of time, right? That's not what people want. They want CBD, but something about what we've seen, the results that we've seen, and we've done a couple randomized controlled trials on our hemp extract and seen such great results. And, yeah, we're really proud of what we do, but it's just the education, like you said, is
Teaching
what's
people.
lacking.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot as well. And it's always funny to me because of the lack of education. Someone will come in and say, I take 250 milligrams a day because that's what the bottle says. So then they feel like that's the dose that they're actually receiving. And I've had to explain to people, I said, that's the dose of the entire bottle. What you're actually receiving is 3 to 8 milligrams per serving. So just teaching people that difference. And when I explain cannabinoids to people, I think of it like a cup of coffee.
Okay.
There's very few people that have black coffee in today's
Yes.
day and age. So you've got your coffee, you've got your sugar, you've got your creamer, and then you've got your flavor shot, and then you process it, right? So when I talk about different CBDs, I explain to people, I'm just like, if you want just black coffee, the isolate is over there.
Yeah.
But if you want all of these other things that make it more synergistic and taste amazing, then you're looking at full spectrum and different extraction methods and so forth.
That's a great way of thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
just so
that.
people try to understand. And I know that your product is one of the ones that we've tried to explain to people a lot. I mean, hemp seeds have been on grocery store shelves for, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years that
Mhm.
people recognize. I mean, it's been there longer, but it's been mainstream for at least 5 years. That's where a lot of the nutrition comes from. So I love the way that you guys use most of it. How do you see, like, when you talk to your clients, I know when you started, you were dealing with the stores. Do you guys have a demographic of, do you have more female clients or male clients? Are you able to weigh in on that?
Yeah, we've done some research, put a lot of money into figuring out who our demographic is and targeting them. It's definitely females. They're over the age of 45-ish, because they're the ones doing the shopping for the family half the time. And they're the ones that, I feel like they're a little bit more, I don't know, want to say open-minded, but in the health food stores, they're willing to try different things and bring it home and give it to their family members and try it. So that's our demographic. And then I think that you're seeing a lot of brands that are popping up with millennials and different age groups, and they have this terrific branding, and a lot of celebrities are now getting involved with different brands and repping, and it's pretty overwhelming for a consumer, I think, to be able to make an educated decision right now. There's just so much out there, and it's unfortunate just because the worst thing that could happen is them to try a brand that just is ineffective, doesn't work, and then they have a bad experience. And you know what, usually it's not an inexpensive product, or even if they do try an inexpensive product and it doesn't work, they're like, why would I spend $50 on a CBD bottle when this $20 bottle clearly doesn't work? I ate the whole bottle, or whatever,
Right.
um
God, I hear that so much too.
yeah,
And
it's
I have the same comment for everybody. And I'm for those of you watching. And if that's you, if Shannon's talking about you, where you've tried it and it didn't work for you, CBD works for every biological being.
everybody.
Let me repeat myself. CBD works for every biological being, but not all formulations work for everyone. So if you try CBD and it did not work for you, look at the formulation that you use. Is it an isolate? Is it a broad spectrum that's an isolate that has had terpenes re-added back in? Is it a full spectrum? How is it extracted? What is the carrier oil it's in? All of these things play a factor with how your body is digesting and how your body is going to respond. Because if everyone could have the same thing, we'd all have the same blood type, and we don't.
And I think the biggest myth is that if someone's endocannabinoid system is pretty tonified and you don't feel a lot of these highs and lows in life, and you're kind of like, well, I'm going to try it. It can't hurt. You're not really going to notice a lot. But internally, like the systematic inflammation and things that we all experience, it's so good for you to be taking just a small amount. We have some smaller milligrams that people just take daily. It honestly, keeping your ECS toned is the way to health. And that's kind of what we're all about at CB Sciences is health transformed. It's not normal healthcare, so that's
it's natural healthcare.
Yes,
right?
Natural.
So as a mom, and I know that you're a mom like me,
Yes.
what challenges have you faced with working in this industry? Because it is, even though for you and I, we're like, finally, people are coming to pass, but it's still so new for everyone else. What challenges have you noticed, not only in your own family with how they are receiving your new career, but as a mom, when you deliver your children, people say, where do you work? You're like,
Yeah.
so I
That
work
was,
here.
that was an interesting topic. Luckily, my dad was like is pro cannabis, so that was okay. But I remember like telling people, and their face was like, oh, And still, I think I try to really. I find myself when I tell people what I do, saying, no, we're in Albertsons, we're in Sprouts, like we're there. Like you can go buy us right now, like on the store. Like we're not. I try to like almost make up for it. Like this is like a mainstream thing. It should be, and that's what's it's so frustrating for me. The stigma that can be behind a cannabis, like someone working in that industry, and it's not even like I don't even. I mean, it's all medicinal, right? Even THC, I love it all. It's not like I'm like pro CBD, but I'm just trying to explain that this should be accessible to everyone. And I know that we can't necessarily, sell to children, but I think there's children that are getting on meds early with ADD and they're just throwing medication at them. And I personally, as a mother, would rather give them something natural like the raw CBD that doesn't even break the blood-brain barrier, something that just to keep them, their ECS toned as well. And I just feel like it's such a stigma still. We're still breaking through that. But I always find myself saying I work for a dietary supplement company, a life science company, just because we are as CV Sciences, we're branching out into other areas too. So we're going to hopefully come out with more different formulas. I know we just came out with our immunity line, which is doing amazing things for, what's pretty much going on right now. What we're in the middle of is the pandemic and people just trying to keep their immunity at top notch right now. But we're going to be coming out with different things you'll see that may have CBD, may not. It's just, we're trying to expand and be more of a company that encompasses a lot of different things for health.
So from a sales perspective, where do you see the industry growing? Where do you see people, like, what are your customers coming back and saying, hey, Shannon, I'd really like to see this product or that product? What direction do you see that?
I mean, structure function is a huge one, right? So we're finding that people, they go to the store and whatever jumps out at them, if it says sleep on it, that's what they want. They want something really easy that's going to tell them, hey, this is going to help me to sleep, or, oh, that's calm, I want that. So we're going to be coming out with some exciting new products this year. A lot of people have already been doing it. We just feel like with our, history and everything we bring to the table and our quality, that we can do it better. And I think that's going to be continuing to grow with the structure function and the creams that say pain on it. I mean, think about it. You just walk in the store and you see something with CBD, unless they have someone like you, Heather, that's going to advise them, oh, this is a great product for this. It's going to be like, I just want a no-brainer. I just want to grab that, that sleep gummy that's going to help me.
That calm, that.
Yeah.
Have
that's
you guys?
The biggest hurdle, right? Not being able to tell what it does on your website, or you can't make any claim.
Explain it. I mean, because we can explain all day long, but that doesn't mean the person reading it understands what you're saying. Yes. So yeah, I think I look forward to that. How do you feel the industry is going to grow as far as you and women working in the industry? What have you noticed since you started? Because in the beginning you were small and you've grown quite a bit. And I know you guys have been a really wonderfully diversified company, but as a woman in the industry, do you feel that you're being treated fairly? Do you feel like you're being able to, do you see that glass ceiling like you would in other industries?
I don't. I don't see that glass ceiling. I feel like my opinions and what I've wanted for the company with like our new pro line, for example, with medical professionals, really they're giving me 100% of that and letting me take control of that department. Would I like to, rise up the ranks and move up in the company? Yes. Like I've been working there for a long time and I feel like they'll give me the opportunity. I also raised 2 children. So I took a lot of time off to be with my kids and I worked from home even before coronavirus, and the grace that they gave me to do that and to still come back fully with my job and not be nervous or anything like that it's been such a blessing to be able to watch my kids grow up and also have a full-time career and show them, what it's like to work hard. And I think I love how the women's brands are coming out. Like I know a couple of brands, like Winged is another one that I think is just amazing. We like to support each other and not bring each other down and not, bash
that's
other
such a
brands.
great point. That is
Yeah,
such a great
because it's
point.
like, yeah, there's so many people that call in and and they talk about other brands or this and that. And that's just not what we do. We want everyone to succeed, but we want some clear framework and regulation a little bit, just because there are some bad actors out there, like I was saying, that are selling bunk CBD with nothing in it, and there's no one really regulating what they're doing. So a little bit of regulation, not too much. We don't like, but
Just
just enough to
to
like,
get rid of the homemade
something.
CBD, and I always urge people, I'm like, if it looks homemade, it is. And you got to be careful when you're taking something orally that looks like it's homemade. So, but that goes, I agree with you though. It goes back to the same thing where we're all on the same ship. And if we start fighting amongst each other, we're going to sink that ship really fast.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, I'm like, oh, there's a competitor store. There's no competitors. There's not a competing brand. There's not a competing store. There's other partners on the same boat, and we're all trying to shoot for the same thing. So I love that you represent that, because I think that's really, really important, especially in an industry, like I said, that's really, females are making huge, massive strides in it. I mean, like I said, this is a female plant.
Yeah.
This is our time. It's our industry. It's our time to step up, not only as females, but representing a female plant, and then being moms and talking to other parents. And how do you see yourself having that conversation with other parents now that you're a mom and your kids are getting a little older? And I know my kids are a little bit older than yours. So when you get to a stage, especially now with COVID and the stress, we've seen kids that are on Adderall. We've seen kids suicidal. We've seen elementary school kids suicidal, and being able to educate them. And I have to tell you, being an educator in the CBD world and being able to share what I know, we've been able to rescue about 26 kids now from Adderall addiction, all of them under 18. And we've been able to rescue several elementary school kids that have talked about either harming themselves or others with CBD products. So this is not an adult product. I know it's been deemed, the weed, but like you said, it's the decaf version. And when you think about the medications like Adderall and some of these other ADHD medications and what's in them and how that can affect your body negatively long-term, CBD is such a minor situation. There's no negative side effects.
Well, think about it. You won't even give your child caffeine, right? Because it stunts their growth or this or that. You would never see your kid drinking coffee, like a Frappuccino or something, but yet you're going to give them something that's just full of chemicals that speed up their heart rate and their blood pressure and everything, their metabolism. I mean, honestly, it gives me anxiety just thinking about it. I feel like I really want, that's where I would love to see the industry go in that direction, where they can, first, we just got to get the banks on board. And this needs to be literally just everybody on the same page, where we can process our credit cards and the legal frameworks all there. And then I think the next step would be, if in a perfect world, is to have these pediatricians recommending a CBD before anything else, a CBD product that is trusted, backed by science, and a quality product that moms can stand behind. It would be great to have like a mother line, that, and no judgment, because it's just
there
something
you are.
Need,
That's the next line that Shannon's coming up with. A mommy line. That could be your next thing right there. Okay, this has been dubbed. This is being recorded. So if anyone comes up with that idea, Shannon had the idea first. But how are you talking to the moms when you drop your kids off? I mean, I'm sure you've talked in the mom corner about what everyone does. Have you had any feedback from those parents?
A lot of feedback on a lot of skin issues with kids. Like that's kind of the first step, is people like putting it on your skin, right? Something about ingesting, people get a little nervous, which I mean, if you've seen Weeds 1 and 2 on, CNN, that it's with Charlotte Figge, that whole story, what it can do for severely, sick in children. And it breaks my heart to think about that way. But as far as like, kids that have, skin issues, eczema, that we rob the raw bomb on them and they're clearing up. And that's kind of like their first, like, wow, like, what is this? Right. Like it's taking away their pain. I've had even mothers put like raw and decarb, like the most unprocessed, closest to earth products that haven't been put through too much process, certainly not isolate unless it was like a pharmaceutical for seizures and different things like that. But for kids that are, have gut issues, that are crying, like I'm talking about newborn babies, so it's a very touchy subject. It's something that
it is.
You don't want to tell somebody what to do, and especially because our products are full spectrum. So there is that trace amount of THC, and I don't believe that THC is good for growing minds and good for children. But something about that micro dose of THC that is not felt by anyone. I'm talking like our spray has, I think, 0.0008% or something THC in a serving. It's nothing, but it's enough to work synergistically and help.
It's enough to flip that switch. And I try to explain that to people. I'm like, do you ever have a dimmer switch? The lights where you can dim it up and down. But if you push it too far down, you hear a click and the light's completely off. That's an isolate.
Yeah. There's nothing else, honestly.
If you can just click it on, but have it at its lowest setting, that's full spectrum.
Yeah.
If you push it up all the way and it's bright as can be, you're just flat out smoking weed.
Yeah, let's just be honest.
Okay.
Wrong. Some people need that, right? Just as on the topic we were on, and children, I think just that tiny bit of that synergistic in their endocannabinoid system that may be very out of whack, like most of us in life are. I think there's something to be said for that.
So I have one last question for you, and I know you've got to run, so I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on the Delta 8 realm? So we're in different states. So, yeah. And I know some states are legal and some states are not. So all the states that are not jumped on the Delta 8 train, and a lot of people don't know what that means. So just like we were talking about minor cannabinoids earlier, for those of you watching, Delta 8 is the minor cannabinoid to Delta 9, which is the tetrahydrocannabinoid. It's the cannabinoid inside CBD, hemp plants, cannabis plants that causes a psychological euphoric effect, or a high, if you will. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's all the craze right now. I see why. I mean, I've had people that eat like 8 of our soft gels. They're like, I got so hot. I'm like, well, it wasn't intended for that. Like, right. So people can abuse anything. And it seems like they found a loophole where they can turn hemp into something that it's not really designed to be. There is a place for that. And I do think that marijuana is very important. And there's a lot of things that THC is very helpful for, pain being one of them. And so if in states like that, if that's all they have access to, I could see why that would be something that they're, clinging on to. However, for what we're doing here, trying to legalize hemp where it's just across the board, there's no like gray area or people that are, nervous about it. It's truly the banks, like I said, are on board with it. We can go work normally and not have to jump through loopholes to get things processed, things like that, money stored, all that. For what we're trying to do in this industry, I don't think it's a good move. I think that it's going to cloud it and make the FDA a little bit more even like, and the DEA now, it's THC is still a controlled substance. So I don't think for what we're doing here and the big picture of wanting this to be accessible to every single person, I don't think that it's the best thing, but I understand why people are so excited about it.
That is a great answer to a very tough question. It is an interesting one. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your time and being a woman in the industry and representing and doing the best you can in the sales and marketing arena. We need more women like you that are out there pounding pavement and teaching and just being out there. Stay tuned, you guys.
Thank you.
Anytime. So stay tuned next week where we will interview another wonderful woman in the weed industry for episode 4. And also, if you like talking to Shannon, you want to know more about her brand, one of the things that we have coming to you this summer is we are interviewing all the vendors that we partner with to get really nitty gritty on brand specifics. So I know we touched a little base on it now, but we're actually going to be talking to some other members of Shannon's team and diving really deep on how their brand is different and what the standout process is. So stay tuned for that as well. Bye, everyone. Have a great day. Bye, Shannon. Have a wonderful day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Take care.